I'm very well, thank you.
That's
How
good.
are you?
Yeah, good. All right, well, let's get stuck into it. So, as a human, you know, your early stages.
Coming in hot. Literally. Coming in very hot.
I said to him, I'm like, you're literally just going straight hard. So, go for it.
So, as a human, your early years define you as a person, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So, what context of your early years do you need to let us know that can help us understand you as a human?
Okay, so I like to say that I'm Russian born, Perth bred and Melbourne based. So I spent the first 8 years of my life growing up in Russia, which was quite an experience. I guess I didn't know any different. So at 8 years old, I moved to Perth, Western Australia with my family. And I couldn't speak a word of English, so I had to learn the language. I remember they told my mum if she doesn't learn it within a month, she has to go to an international school. Oh, wow. So I had to, kids are like sponges, so I picked it up pretty quick. And within a month, I was, chattering away. My mum couldn't understand me.
Wild.
Yeah.
Mum still can't understand you, I'm guessing?
Yeah. But I feel like, the juxtaposition of the two different upbringings, just polar opposite childhoods, and I'm very blessed to have experienced them both. I feel like I guess, half Russian, half Australian, kind of leaning towards Australian. But it was quite jarring growing up in Russia. I feel like they're very stringent and strict in terms of things like academics. And when I came to Australia, I was a lot more lax. So I feel like, I really assimilated to the culture and, I loved it. So I've been in Melbourne for the past 5-6 years and I love it. It's just a beautiful place that encourages and nurtures creativity. And, that's a little bit about my childhood.
Yeah, nice. What do you think, what pieces of the Russian culture do you think are still sticking in?
Oh, God. I think I'm a little bit addicted to achievement, I think. And that's...
Aren't we all?
You're in the right room.
That's, in the creative fields, we're all very ambitious people. But I feel like with me, part of why it was a little bit difficult for me growing up in Russia is, a lot of pressure is placed on kids with achievement and academia. And a lot of children of immigrants, they experience something similar where you almost feel obligated to achieve great success in your life because, your parents brought you to this country and you feel like it's your duty almost to achieve great things. So since I was a kid, it was really instilled in me. It was very important to work very hard. But I think I didn't really like the pressure that they put on kids in terms of academia. So that's something I'm trying to work on, being super hard on myself in terms of whenever I achieve a long-term goal, I always feel like there's something else. So I need to sit with that feeling and
we're all like this, I think.
Oh no, I can definitely relate to that because I'm Croatian, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't born over there, but my upbringing was very similar in terms of like the expectation to perform in anything you were doing. Do you think that comes from, your parents obviously growing up in Russia as well, that fear that's instilled in them of lack and scarcity because their upbringing was so difficult? So you almost have to respect what they went through, but then you also have to draw a line because you now live in Australia and you're not facing the same sort of things that they would have had to experience when they were younger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all they've ever known, that scarcity mindset. A lot of the time, I shouldn't say that's a blanket statement, but a lot of the time in those kind of cultures, they don't really, they can't conceptualize abundance because, they didn't see it growing up, and you can't really fathom something you can't see a lot of the time. I definitely think so. And with my mum, for the longest time, because she grew up in Soviet times and they have very limited resources, she had to then undo a lot of that conditioning when she came to the country. So it's definitely possible. I mean, she's in her 50s now and she's already on her path to undoing that. But it's a long road once you're conditioned from young to think that way. So I often wonder if I did stay in Russia, how would I be different, because I'm very open-minded. I do believe in unlimited resources and I have the abundance mindset. So I wonder if I stayed would I be like that as well? And I think it's a generational thing as well. With access to the internet, even the next generation in Russia is growing up embracing these new ideals.
I feel like we're all kind of getting pretty homogenized now in the later generations because you can see so much stuff from so many different cultures quite easily.
Yeah.
How do you think, from your experience, like seeing your mum going from Soviet Russia to Australia and then the development of her, you know, peeling away all of those layers, those scarcity mindset layers that she's assimilating into a culture like Australia, which is a wonderful country. What have you seen techniques-wise that have helped?
I think a lot of the time these parents also take inspiration from their children. You know, when you move in silence and they could see you building your own success on your own terms, that also gives them permission to do the same and realise, hey, maybe this new way of living that I haven't experienced before, maybe there's something to this. I also think with my mum, she's quite committed to self-development and that journey. So exposing yourself to resources, new ways of thinking, thought leaders and books, podcasts, things like that. It's interesting. I'll have to ask her that one because I feel like you just have to be committed to your self-awareness and you have to want to change and surround yourself with the right people. And I think she also, you know, as a result of being an immigrant, she's been here over 20 years. You do pick up some of these things along the way.
Yeah, because my dad was born in Egypt and came to Australia when he was
Really?
20. Yeah, I'm half Egyptian.
That's okay, you learn something new every day.
And I've spoken to him about this a bunch, and he's, you know, started his own business and he's worked for himself for a long time. And he said to me, especially I think from like Arab descent, and especially after 9/11, he was like, it got really hard. So I can only imagine, you know, Russia's kind of probably in a similar branding wise to like Arabs when it comes to Australia. Because I think to be honest, I think sometimes like Aussies are a little bit racist. Like I've seen that. Yeah. Like, and it's weird because all we are is just like a melting pot of cultures. We aren't there's not really Australian culture. It's just like all these different cultures that have come together and gone, all right, we're going to just hang out. But
I think it's also because these countries, like whether it is Croatia, Russia, Egypt, wherever, like all they know is survival. Like that's it. So when it's that fight or flight state that they're constantly living in, and that's the environment that they've had to grow up in, like you said, it's all they know.
Yeah.
So then you come to a place like Australia where you do have a lot of freedoms that a lot of countries don't have. So it just becomes this whole mammoth mountain of having to actually draw the awareness to the things. I understand because I look at my grandmother, and my grandmother doesn't know half the stuff I've done in my lifetime. She knows nothing. She still thinks I work at Cotton On.
You don't work at Cotton On?
I quit 5 years ago. Like, but she still thinks that, and it's just sometimes easier because they're so much older now that they don't want to change. And who am I to change them at that age? Like they've believed this one thing their whole life, or multiple things their whole lives, sorry. It's kind of like, well, I'm just going to have to set boundaries in place for me to just live my life the way I know how to, and just lie to her for the rest of my life. Like,
we've actually spoken about this.
Do what you gotta
do. Well, I think a big part of it is, as you went back to, you know, your family kind of seeing you and then modelling off you. I think you lead by example.
absolutely.
Yeah,
you can lead by example so much. But you know, I don't know. Would you say, you know, with you've done a lot in your life, like, do you want to talk about some of the things that you're proud of?
Oh gosh. I don't know why I still hesitate to talk about achievements, but I guess graduating uni.
Why is that, do you think?
Oh, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. It's like toxic humility sometimes. I don't know if that's a term that I coined, but
trademark.
I'm not sure. But that's a topic for later on. I guess I'll answer the question. So I guess graduating from uni, pretty proud of that.
And what did you study?
So I studied commerce, majoring in human resource management and international business. I actually went into law and psychology because, I don't know how else to say this. I did feel family pressure to. In Russia, there's only a few recognized professions.
You're not a doctor.
Medicine,
You are nothing.
Literally. Medicine, law, engineering.
Yeah, I know
so
exactly
safe.
what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
Very similar. Croatian, Egyptian, these kind of cultures have a similar mentality. I can relate to a lot of people from Asian countries as well who experience this similar family dynamic. But it took a lot of guts to say to my mum, like, Mum, I don't really want to do this anymore. This isn't the right path for me. But I still knew that I needed to go to uni. That's how I felt at the time. I have to get a degree. So I chose the most versatile degree I could think of, and that was commerce. Something else I'm really proud of that really stands out, when I was a kid, so I was always into the arts. I was a junior ballroom champion. I really loved to dance, things like that. This seems silly to some, but to me, this is like one of my biggest achievements because I remember how I felt on that day and it was just so ecstatic. So I had it in my head that I wanted to win a school talent show when I was 9. And I practiced every single day. I sang Britney Spears' I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman.
Can we hear it?
Maybe not.
Yeah. Oh. Try again in half an hour.
All the boys would tease me. They're like, what are you then, a boy? And I'm like, no, you just don't get the song. There's more depth to it. But I used to practice in front of the mirror. I did all the actions. I used to really look up to Britney and want to be just like her.
Britney pre-shaving the head or post-head shave? Or now? Her Instagram's wild. Have you seen what she posts?
I follow her, yeah.
Have you seen what she's been through? That poor girl.
Yeah, I feel like she needs like a publicist or someone. But no, she's great. I admire her for what she's done in her life. I won the show. I feel like I manifested it, honestly. Like I could just picture it. I was like, this is mine for the taking. I'm going to win this talent show. I don't know, to be an immigrant as well, feeling like I was a bit of a misfit, not speaking the language, and then having an achievement like that. I was just so, people come up to me, congratulated me. I'm still really fondly holding on to that feeling. That's one of my top three memories.
Do you think it's because, is that what you wanted to be when you were younger, like a performer of
Definitely.
some sort?
So I used to go to the cinema with my class, and I used to point at the movie posters, and I was like, that will be me one day. And all my friends were like, yeah, right, that will never be you. So when I moved to Melbourne, I actually got into acting, which I could talk about later on. But I think I always wanted to have a platform and use my voice and get into the creative fields. But I guess my most notable achievement, which I have to mention, being crowned Miss Universe Australia for 2021.
That's pretty epic.
Which was very cool.
What was that experience like?
My experience was, I like to think of it as a world first because Melbourne, as you know, had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. Not the longest.
It was.
Wow, which is wild. So for me, the program was still run the same. They judged the girls off the same merits, the same kind of judging criteria.
What other judging criteria?
We don't like to say judges. We say selection committee.
It's all branding.
Hashtag mental health.
Literally.
But so there's a lot of criteria. They look at how you honour the sponsors online on social media, which wasn't a criteria before, but now it's very important.
What does that even mean?
Honour the sponsors. Yeah. Wow, I made it sound so great. Basically, doing the post for the sponsors, there are a lot of sponsors that go into the program, and without them, we wouldn't have a program. So doing that, honouring that, doing your due diligence, and also there's a Q&A, the infamous Q&As. We've all seen the YouTube videos of the pageant fails, which was a big concern of mine because, who would want to put their foot in their mouth on a global stage? Thankfully, my answers went okay. It got me the title. But things like your walk. So it's the full package, I guess. They look in Australia, they do things a bit differently. They're not looking for the perfect pageant girl with perfectly rehearsed answers. I guess they want someone that can relate to Australians, can relate to people. They could put you on a morning show and you could just have some banter and have a chat. So, very lucky to have had that opportunity. And I was actually in my living room because of lockdown. So while the criteria was the same, we had to do it over Zoom.
Oh, really?
So awkward.
Yeah, so I did it 2 years in a row. Both years I was in lockdown. The first year I did it, we were lucky enough we couldn't travel interstate at that point, but we had hubs. So we gathered in little hubs, like all the state finalists, and we had, a camera crew, things like that. So you weren't by yourself. But the year I won, I was by myself. So that was quite an experience. I don't think that's ever happened in a world before. You could actually see it on YouTube, the camera panning to me as I win, and there was a bit of a time lag as well. The winner is Daria Varlamova. And it took a while to register. And then my reaction, I was like, I'm not very good at, I don't know whether it's a Russian conditioning thing, but I'm not very good at showing emotions in times like that.
Okay, next thing to win.
I think I was in too much shock to feel any joy. But it definitely hit later. I was just, in complete shock. I was flabbergasted because I kind of didn't really expect it. And then I had about 2 hours sleep that night. The next morning I was on a morning show virtually. I had a bunch of flowers. It's so funny. It was my first time on a morning show doing live TV, and I wasn't familiar with the process. So when
Especially on Zoom.
True.
So they were announcing me, and then they panned to me, but I wasn't ready, so I was like fixing my hair or something like Daria. I'm like, oh, hi.
I didn't see you there.
Yeah. Relatable content, so it works.
Exactly. And then we did a Herald Sun shoot, and I don't know, it never really hit me until I was overseas representing the country. I had just a few weeks to get ready. The competition was held in Israel, and there was a lot of political turbulence at the time. So there was a lot of controversy surrounding the location. A lot of the girls representing their countries, they got a lot of hate online for actually going. But yeah, it was a very intense experience. I don't want to change it.
Speaking of hate, like I'm guessing you get haters and all that sort of stuff. Like, how do you go dealing with that and maintaining mental health, positive? Because it's tough.
I think I'm actually genuinely curious about, like, congratulations, because I'm just sitting here thinking about trying to get up on a stage and all that, and I'm like,
thank you, man.
But, like, kudos to you.
Podcast though.
But the whole process of, like, my head goes straight to getting a group of beautiful women in a room together competing for this title with the likes of social media, sponsors, all these things. Like, how does the whole comparison game go for your mental health? Like, do you just go, oh, I'm just here because I'm doing a good thing, this is going to give me opportunities to help other people in the future or whatnot? What was that like?
So I've always been a big proponent of staying in your own lane. It's very important to me. All the girls are beautiful. They're so accomplished. You wouldn't believe what some of these girls get up to. Their achievements are incredible. They're kind-hearted. They're charismatic. But the thing is, there's very little competition, funnily enough. The girls are very supportive of one another. I've been very lucky. I've made friendships for life. I think as the competition heats up, it's only natural sometimes to inadvertently compare yourself to others. I think it's just important to bring yourself down to earth and realise, it's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah.
There'll always be someone more beautiful, smarter, more accomplished, funnier. You can't fixate on that because people, they do have different strengths, and you can't mold yourself to be someone else. Say if I won on the merit of pretending to be someone I'm not,
it'll collapse eventually.
It'll collapse. You can't, there's only so long you could keep that up. So you got to... Exactly right. And
I can just picture you as a judge. You do you, boo.
And you.
The judges have been around for so long. They are very good at spotting authenticity, I think. I think that's human nature. If you're good at reading people, you could see when someone's genuinely passionate about something. For me, I thought I didn't want to... So a lot of the girls, they have advocacies, things they stand for, that they're passionate for. And we get asked, like, what would you use the platform for? And you can't just fixate on the most trending topic at the time if that's not really a passion. For me, it was mental health. And I feel like that was done to death a little bit because, well, that's how I felt at the time. Like, oh, everyone says they're a mental health
It's like
advocate.
Miss Congeniality. That's what my head goes
Well,
straight.
peace. Of
It's like,
course. But that's very important, well, peace. But for me, mental health, you know, my personal journey with that, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at such a young age. I don't like the word disorder, but that's what it is. It's very common.
Do you think that came from
deal.
the like upbringing, the challenging upbringing, and being thrown into a country that you know nothing about and having to like sink or swim very quickly?
I feel like a lot of, perhaps, if anything, that built my resilience. But I think a lot of these things, they're nature and nurture combined. Things like neuroticism, I don't know how much of that is nature and how much is nurture. But definitely, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it because anxiety can be beneficial. There's positive aspects to it. It keeps you safe in those dangerous situations, you know. So I can't say, but that was my experience. And I also had 2 male friends end their lives, which was, very difficult. And I'm the older sister to 2 brothers. And I know a lot of the time men, they don't tend to, it's changing now, but traditionally they don't tend to speak about these topics and their emotional well-being as much with their peers. So I made it my duty. I promised myself that if I had this opportunity, I almost made a deal with the universe. I was like, I promise I'll make it worth your while. If I have this opportunity, I'm going to do something with it. So,
Partnering with God.
You know what? It works. I get it 100%. It works. So
I do.
Kudos again.
I've had a similar, like I've had multiple friends over the years like commit suicide, and so I fully get it. And that's a big reason why I'm like so focused on that part of, you know, philanthropy as well. So I do understand.
I think also having someone in my position, you know, if people look up to me, like a lot of young women, then I think it'll be very validating for them to see that you can be Miss Universe Australia, you know, you can attend these glamorous events, or you could have all these things going on, which, by the way, don't contribute to my happiness. They're just a part of my work. But you can have those things going on and still, you know, have the mental health issues as well.
Still be human.
Yeah, you could still be human. I wouldn't even call them issues, you know, they're very common. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, it's just with the accolades and all that sort of stuff and all these kind of, you know, shining in the lights. There's people think it will make them happy, but a lot of these things don't make people happy.
It's the hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill, yeah, she gets it.
Yeah.
So, like, at what point did you realise that? I'm guessing you've gone through that, and at what point did you realise that was the case? And then what did you do following that to begin to like work through finding that place of happiness?
You just asked like 5 questions.
Yeah, can you reframe the question? I was a little bit confused. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Okay, all right. So, what did I even ask? I was just in flow. So you know, you're naming lives, all that sort of stuff. Some people attach to that, you know, these outcomes as the possible point of them being happy. But after you do a lot of this stuff, and most people realise eventually that it doesn't. It's just this weird thing where once you get to this goal, you're like, oh, okay. So I'm guessing you felt that way. When you felt that way, what happened and where have you gone since then?
I guess I feel like, I don't know if this answers your question, but I'll try my best. I feel like a lot of people are very process driven. We enjoy the journey, and once we achieve a certain goal, we feel that sense of emptiness.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, I feel like, there was my goal for so long. Once I achieved that, I did feel, of course, like people would tell me, you must just be the happiest girl in the world. And I was like, I'm really stressed. Like, of course, like I'm so overjoyed at this opportunity, but it's just what people thought it would be didn't really align. Why, you know, I was questioning why I didn't feel that sense of euphoria 24/7.
You can't. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
then I realized.
a baseline state.
Yeah, I had to fix what was within, you know. And it was recently I went home for Christmas in Perth for 3 weeks, and I hadn't been back for a couple of years. And I thought, out of all the amazing things that happened to me, like this was the most joy that I felt. Of course, it was great being Miss Universe Australia. I'm very grateful. But being with family, that was the most important thing for me. So
Joy from the simple things.
Going back to those basics is really important. You know, if you don't have the foundation built, you know, everything else will crumble. Things like your sleep, your journaling.
Absolutely.
Got that one from Adam. I can't take credit. Yeah, things like that. I think it's the foundation that you built your house on, and the other stuff, the accolades, those are just the pillars and the cherries
The
on
fun
top.
on the top.
Exactly.
I used this analogy once in a video, and everyone was like, "That's a really good analogy." And it's just how I view. This sounds so odd. The way I view people as trees. Like, you look at a tree, if the roots are so deeply embedded, and you know who you are, and the core of you keep coming back to that, going every time I feel unaligned. If I just return back to myself and the things I know to be true, then I'm always going to be led on the right path. But these other things that we go through life obtaining, whether it is titles, whether it is, you know, money, material things, they're just branches that stem from us. They're not actually us. And so...
Because if they go...
Well, if they go, exactly. Seasons come and go.
Yeah.
Leaves fall off. People come and go. So it's like this going through life with this goal that's supposed to direct you, but it's not the outcome. I think we're so outcome driven these days, to have something to latch onto, to be like, I did the thing and the thing was great, but then what?
Yeah.
It's like that empty void after you get the thing, but it's like you missed the whole point. It wasn't about the thing. It was about the process of becoming to get to that thing. Like, who are you becoming along the
The
way?
thing's just a bonus of like
Yeah.
becoming the version of you that gets you to that goal.
But this is the issue that I find with so many people, because I constantly get people in my inbox asking me these types of questions, like, how do you just like, how are you so driven? How are you so motivated? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not motivated. But it's because the goal is not meant to be the end point. I think it was Jordan Peterson that said you should always have a goal that's actually unattainable, because then that means you're in this pursuit to obtain, like, to get there, to get better 1% every day. But when you have these goals, I think he used... pretty sure it was Jordan Peterson. He used the idea of an Olympian who trains for, you know, years and years and years and years to win a gold medal. They win the gold medal and then they're so disheveled and they don't know what to do next because their whole life has been about obtaining this gold medal or winning.
Purpose is from the pursuit.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing I was going to say was, I think when you're not present and aware in the moment whilst you're in the thick of it, you miss the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not about getting the gold medal, or sure, it'll give you some sort of, you know, euphoria.
External validation.
Yeah,
Mainly
but then
external validation.
it's those little things you pick up along the way about yourself where you're like, that's really interesting. When I'm put in these scenarios or situations, this is how I act. This is what I learned about myself. But we just like try to cruise through life, getting to that goal or that thing. And that's where I realize now I have all these things that I want to do, but what excites me now more is the process and the journey. Like, it's actually more the process, because the process is the uncomfortable part. So yeah.
And it's nice to look back on these things. You appreciate them more in hindsight.
Absolutely.
When it's happening, like you said, it's almost like being in the eye of a tornado when you're in the thick of it. And it's really important throughout that process to remain very authentic. I had a lot of people, for some reason, give me unsolicited advice about how I should use my title, how I should show up on social media. I've had people saying to me, how can you be a mental health advocate and not show yourself crying on social media, which wasn't my style, but I know a lot of people do that and it works for them. Great. Wasn't authentic to me.
Everyone has opinions.
Everyone.
Opinions are like assholes.
And the next person would say, I love that. Everyone has one. But
Some of them are shitty.
I haven't heard that. That's like an add-on.
That's my add-on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. TM that. But,
Some of them are shitty.
yeah.
On another episode with the Some of Them Are Shitty podcast. That could be a good thing. We interview like people that suck.
Anyway, back to what you were saying.
I think, when you're faced with so many conflicting bits of advice, you know, total polar opposites, how do you know what to do? And the answer is actually being authentic in yourself.
It's the what's it called? Integrity. The integrity is a word that I am just like, it's just the only word I like to use now, especially with like all this work that I'm personally getting myself into. the reason why I think so many people listen to me, like I was saying at the start, I don't have a huge following. I don't have millions of subscribers, but for whatever reason, people seem to trust me. And when I ask these people, like, why are you happy to just donate this kind of money to me? They're like, because we know you're going to do good with it. Like, we know it's authentic. The way you speak to people, the way you put things out there, it's authentic to you. If anyone else tried to mimic what I was doing, it would come across as ingenuine. And people can see that because it's everywhere now. And we're having to work so much harder these days, I think, with social media to pick that out. Sometimes we get too picky and we try to rip people to pieces, which I disagree with. Like cancel culture, I hate that shit.
Same.
But yeah, I think now you don't get away with, being kind of ingenuine or inauthentic because we just, like, people can see it from a mile away now.
I feel like building rapport is all about living in your truth, and that's why you have that good community. It's all about that quality, not the quantity, people who trust you because you are authentic.
And I don't think character, like, you can't fake character. Like, character is actually an innate attribute of who you are. Like, that's something you just can't bullshit.
Yeah, exactly right. And to go, I realised I never answered your question, Adam, about
Sorry, you asked 7. So
I just want to interject quickly on this before you say that. Like,
What?
I like this little saying. It's like, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, and that goes back to, during Miss Universe, how you said, how do you not compare? That's exactly right. We are our own unique tapestry of attributes that make us us, Wow.
That was deep.
Cheesy,
that was
yeah.
dope. No, that was great. We should snip that one.
profound.
Put that on a Hallmark card.
Yeah, in the back of the wall.
Perfect. Yeah, we have some motivational posters hanging up
One
here.
doesn't like them.
Like, why is there a fishbowl that says big results require big
It's a
ambition?
fish managed to jump out of the water.
Like, not a vibe. Not a
Okay.
vibe.
That's revolutionary, really.
Why
But
does it trigger you?
let's unpack this.
Sometimes yes. Mon.
Done better. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. You're an expert at branding. Yes.
But Adam, you asked me a question about how to deal with haters. And when I didn't forget, but when I was crowned, I had some comments, people saying, but she's not even from here. She's an immigrant. How could she represent Australia? Like,
What is Australia?
hello,
What the fuck?
have you been living
So
under a rock?
ridiculous sometimes.
We're a melting cultural pot. And also that kind of mentality is really frowned upon in Australia because you're meant to be inclusive. And those are the values that this country, as we know it
Literally
today,
the
was
whole
founded
thing.
on. Yeah, inclusivity, things like that. But then a comment straight below that would be like, another typical blonde-haired,
You can't win either way.
yeah, another blonde-haired Australian girl.
If you had red hair, they'd be like,
Oh, another redhead.
We've actually never had a redhead. I was
really?
speaking to a team. I'm like, yeah, it'll be great to
Dyed you.
I actually thought about that and I wanted to dye it red recently, but then I thought it wasn't living my truth,
Yeah.
It's not authentic to me. But yeah, so I realised I don't really have a strategy on dealing with that. I don't cry myself to sleep. No. I don't. I've got a pretty thick skin and that's a
the
good
Russian
thing.
in you.
It's the Russian in me, yeah. I could be...
That's a thing.
Bit of a
like,
hardness,
people,
yeah.
that's not even, because people say that about me
Yeah.
and I will literally be like, it's the
We get
Croatian.
shit done,
Yeah,
It's
literally that.
We don't dwell,
No.
We've got things to do. But I'm also like very sensitive,
You're
I'm
human.
a little bit of a softie.
That's the Australian in you now.
Yeah.
Too sensitive.
That's my spiritual side, I think. So my more stoic Russian side, I think that's when I really have to activate it when it comes to haters. But also it depends on my mood. Sometimes I see this a lot of the time. A lot of these hate comments come from men.
Really?
They really have a problem when, for instance, I would do a post about mental health. They'll have a bone to pick with me over that. Another mental health page run by men, they actually commented, what are you doing? You're living a privileged life. You're posting all these pictures. It's vanity. Who are you to speak about mental health? Yeah.
Success if you're supportive of people's mental health. And it's as though people with money and success don't also have shitty mental health. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I said to these guys, I was a bit annoyed. So on that day, I actually made a snide remark back. So sometimes I do that.
Be the
I
change
don't
you want to
recommend
see in the
it.
world, Daria.
I don't recommend it, but a part of me wants to put people in their place, but, you know, leading with kindness or whatever. So sometimes you got to just brush it off, send them a love heart,
Yeah,
send them on their way.
The problem with like coming back with anger or coming back with like some position based out of like anger is that person, whoever has this argument, instantly just like locks in their position.
They win.
They got exactly
what they wanted.
And they're like, well, because of blah, 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 blah. And then you've got two people talking at one another and nothing gets done.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's a waste of your time and energy as well. I don't know who told me this once, but it changed the way I looked at life. Even when you're replying to or responding to a hate comment online, you're actually exchanging energy with that person, even electronically, and it drains you, you know? So Adam's right. Like, I need to work on leading with kindness and brushing things off and not giving them that fuel that they're so desiring. You know, they want any sort of attention.
They like water. Should we explain?
Sure.
Okay, so water.
You just like lean in with these little. Be like water. Like what?
You should do ASMR.
That's what I mean. It's like these little
ASMR quotes.
come out of nowhere like a chip on your shoulder.
Oh, you should put subliminals in this podcast, like calming subliminals. Is that a Simpsons reference?
Yeah. Anyway, explain your water.
Anyway, so the idea of being like water is like it molds to the environment around it. You know, it's in a cup. It fills in a cup. It needs to go downhill. It streams downhill. But at the same time, it can be extremely powerful. Like a tidal wave can crush. And it's like you need to be able to, when appropriate, come with force. Yeah. But majority of the time, you flow and you roll with whatever's coming your way. I think it's like a Bruce Lee quote.
I like that. And it kind of, to me, the way I interpret that is staying in your lane as well. And
by staying in your lane?
Well, I conserve my energy and I don't announce until I arrive. I like to think of myself as a silent assassin.
What do you mean, don't announce till you arrive?
People don't see what I'm working at. I guess I don't announce it until I have something to say. And when I do have something to say, I come full force. And a lot of people said when I won Miss Universe Australia, I was a bit of a dark horse because I didn't go into trips because of the lockdowns, but I knew how I had to show up. I was like, okay, what's my advantage here? I can't go on a trip and mingle with a selection committee, but I can show up online. What am I going to do? I'm going to post 2 to 3 times a day so the sponsors could see, so that I'm on their radar. Yeah. You know, so I know what I'm working on. I've got my blinkers on. Other people may not see it, but I prefer it that way. I'm a big believer in energetics, and I wouldn't go so far as to say the evil eye and things like that, but I do believe in the energy of people scrutinizing you, almost jinxing your journey. So I like to move in silence. I don't like
so much. I talk so much shit. I say everything, and then it all, like half the time it falls apart. And I'm like, so I need to take a leaf out.
Don't announce until you arrive.
I'm so excited. Oh, this stuff's happening.
I get that.
There are times where it's important to announce, and that is when you think that someone can help you on a journey, like with you, Mon, building a school in Kenya. If you didn't announce that you were doing that, you wouldn't have got the investors on board. So,
oh, you're absolutely right. And this is where it's funny, because you saying when you get so excited about something that's happening, I used to do that always. I used to be like, I need to tell people now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
But then I realized like that mystery that can be within a person is actually what can pull people in. When I go silent on socials or anything, people are like, she's doing something. Adam thinks I hate him. But then I come out with this thing, and it's like a well thought out project or a well thought out announcement it's not just a sporadic like word vomit on people, because it becomes noise at the end of the day. When you're constantly out there trying to say you're going to be doing all these things, and then you're not doing the things, or they're taking a bit longer to do, people are like, you're full of shit. And so I actually learned that lesson with what I used to do with like socials and content and all that. And then 2 things happened. I was like, 1, I actually don't give a shit about people's opinions anymore. So I'm just going to do this my way. And then, like you said, waiting and timing things to be like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to give you plan A, B, C on how we're going to do it. And then people go, oh shit, she's actually thought about this. Like, she's not just going to be like, look at me, I'm doing this really great thing for the internet. It's like, oh crap, she's got like a 5-year plan. It's like, yeah, I actually have a 12-year plan, but yeah, let's start with 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that excitement piece. I channel that now though. Like I channel that because when I come out with something, it's just like all guns blazing. And people are like, oh my God, fuck.
All right.
Yeah,
shit,
it's
relax.
good to surprise people, right?
Yeah.
I think I still am pretty like I'm like a golden retriever. I'm still very excited, and I still talk about things a lot. But what I've gotten better at is detaching from accepting like even if I talk about it, maybe someone can help, but also there's still a chance that it doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, being okay with the idea that maybe I look a little bit silly to the people I've told, and being okay with that not working out, and it just is what it is.
But I think that the counter to that is just not like knowing that you're doing more than what other people wish that they were doing. Like I remember, and this, if I flip this on in my head, I remember looking at people doing YouTube, doing what I wanted to be doing, and I would sit there and go, their content is so much shit, like I could do so much better.
So I don't ever think that. I'm like, these guys are way better than I could ever be.
So, but this was where the switch in my head went off, when I went, like a little voice, literally like you sneaking into the mic.
Little annoying voice.
Yeah, literally. No, but this voice literally said to me, I'm about to punch her in the face. This little voice, third time, said, yeah, but they're doing it and you're not.
Yeah.
So you actually don't have the right to just sit here and criticize, which is what these haters are probably doing. Like, you know, you're doing something that's fulfilling and meaningful to you, and they wish they were. So the only way they're going to retaliate is to attack you and hope that you bite back, so their expectation of you being a terrible person is a reality in front of thousands of people. But if you don't bite back and just continue doing you or staying in your lane, they've got nothing to go off. And if what you're doing is something that's actually benefiting other people, shut up.
Exactly. I feel like criticism is just internalized jealousy and resentment.
Absolutely.
Because people that are doing better than you or are ahead or happy in their lives,
I'm going to bring you down.
why would they? Because they're staying in their lane.
Literally.
They've got laser focus on their own projects. You know, they don't have the time or the energy or the desire to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wish more people understood that.
Yeah.
You know what? I've struggled with a lot of this. Like I've struggled with people kind of looking at my life, not knowing me as a person and being like, this person is XYZ and therefore, you know, they suck, or this coming to some conclusion that maybe sometimes they're right, but majority of the time, once these people get to know me, and some of them do, a lot of them don't, but some of them do, it always comes back to going, you're completely different to how I envisioned you as a person.
Yeah.
And I've like, it used to get to me a lot. I used to really struggle with it. I wanted to prove myself to, I still do in some parts, but I think it's coming more from like a central point of like, okay, I can do this for me and I can do this because I want to do this. But a recent thing that came to light was this idea of like not taking criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. And when I heard that, I was like, shit, okay. So if someone who's like a top fashion icon or whatever says to me, hey, look, you need to do X, Y, Z for your, you know, these are the cool things you could do, or like this looks kind of stupid, or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, take that criticism. But like if Joe Blow down the road, like prime example, I went to Bendigo and I was DJing in Bendigo a little while ago, and I went to this like pub to check out a venue afterwards. And there was this like dude that just like rough as guy that was having, you know, the type like rural Vic, rough as dude in his 50s, having drinks with his mates on a Sunday. I come in wearing like just some like cool pants and a tank top that I've been like repping a heap. And the tank top, you know the tank top. The tank top can be
in
like,
every second episode.
Yeah. And he fully had this like weird crack at me. He's like, oh, is this guy from France or something? And I was like, and you know, maybe a version of me in the past would have gone, oh, okay, that's awkward. But me now, I'm like, I looked at the guy and I'm like, I just laughed. Literally, I was like, maybe. And then, maybe not, I don't know. And he was confused that I didn't either A, get like defensive or B, get aggressive, like, or like sad about it. I just like fully brushed it off. And I looked at the guy and I was like, wouldn't take fashion advice from that dude. This is irrelevant.
A simpler example is I wouldn't personally, maybe somebody else would, but why would you take health advice from an overweight doctor?
Yeah, I always find that weird.
I don't like if you're going to sit there and tell me about my health and heart condition, but you are struggling to breathe at this point, I'm sorry, but I can't take advice from you because you're not living proof and example of practicing what you preach. Like that to me is a red flag to be like, until you sort that out, I can't take advice. Why would you take financial advice?
Yeah.
Well,
Or someone who's broke.
Yeah. Or, an accountant that has hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. You clearly can't manage your finances. Why would I trust you with my finances?
And the relationship advice from single people that
That's
aren't
it.
married, marriage advice from people that
parenting advice from people who don't have kids.
it makes no sense.
It actually doesn't make sense. But online, when you don't know that about people, you'll sit there and take this criticism, but these people literally have no idea.
Like when I went on that TikTok that went viral and then that Daily Mail thing and some like boomer from Byron's like, this guy's a criminal, look at his criminal tattoos, what a bogan.
I believe they said peasant tattoos.
Let's get it up on screen. all right, we're getting distracted. Now your journey to being crowned Miss Universe Australia is an interesting one. I'd love to hear, in a bit more depth, the start of it from day dot, the journey all the way to you being crowned, and like the challenges you faced and the times. Yeah. Anyway, I'll keep asking you questions. So I'll start.
So this is a bit of a crazy full circle moment. I'll start at the end and then I'll backtrack. So when I was 19, I thought I'd try out. I was dabbling into modelling, things like that. I thought it would be cool to try out and do the Miss Universe Australia program. I rocked up. It took a lot of guts for me to even apply. I rocked up. I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and very early. So I was number 27 out of probably 150 girls that rocked up to the CVD that day. This was back in Perth. So I was number 27. I was given a number and I have a photo to this day. I posted it on my Instagram. And I didn't make it through that day. And I was very discouraged, which I'll talk about in a sec. But when I won, I was 27 years old. So I thought that was so crazy. And,
Everyone loves science.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in science. Yeah. So to me, I only realised that recently and I got a bit emotional because that was kind of the universe telling me,
like
just
stars,
wait.
Yeah,
don't give up.
I'm like, oh my God.
Same. So long story short, I tried out. We had to do a walk in a CBD. There were lots of people, just shoppers, lots of crowd, a big crowd essentially. I had to do a walk. I didn't know the first thing about doing a catwalk. I was very reserved. My voice was shaking when I spoke into the mic. A lot of people are very surprised to know that I'm actually an introvert and I'm generally quite shy. I'm not shy. I was shy until I did MUA. It's almost like when I do these speaking engagements, I step into my alter ego.
Yeah.
Internal family systems.
You know what's funny? Everyone says my alter ego would be like a Russian redhead.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Sexy Russian Black Widow. Is she brunette?
And it would be like, I don't even know what the name. I remember my friend saying it to me and I was like,
Vladana.
Yeah, like literally something like that.
Svetlana.
It was Vladana. I was trying to think of it. Svetlana, yes, that's the name.
Oh, I love that because that's what we call my alter ego as well.
This is meant to be.
The sassy Russian in me. Wow. But anyway.
Let's become best friends.
I think we're best friends.
It's funny because when I would listen to your podcast, I'd say to Adam, I'm like, me and Mon are going to get along like a house on fire. You said this one thing and it is my live saying. It is what it is. And I'm like,
I got a tattoo here.
Can I get a matching tag?
Yeah, you should.
I actually will.
I'll write it.
promise you.
Matching tags. There's some trauma around that one.
We'll unpack that later on.
No, we won't unpack that one. We'll unpack that later.
Anyway, sorry.
But anyway, so
go back to this story.
And then, I spoke into the mic. I was like, hi, I'm Daria. I'm studying commerce. I'm a disability support worker. And I did the little catwalk. I had this twitch in my face whenever I smiled and people looking at me whenever I was on stage or on camera. It doesn't happen now, but I always used to get this muscle spasm. Do you know? Like, I don't know if you've experienced that.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it happened to me every time and it was quite visible. So anyway, I didn't make it through. About 60 girls got in and like the rest were sent home. And I was one of the girls that was sent home. I remember they were calling out all the numbers. I was just waiting for my number to be called and it wasn't.
It's so stressful. I know that feeling.
Yeah, so now when I'm mentoring the other Miss Universe Australia girls, when I have my mentor sessions with them, when I speak to other hopeful entrants, I tell them the story. So I didn't even make it through into the program. I wasn't even a state finalist, you know. So I moved to Melbourne. I dabble in acting, then I do modelling. And I thought, well, I gained a bit of confidence. I've grown up. Why not give this pageant thing another red hot crack? I actually did Miss World Australia. So I became, that was a few years ago now. So I became a national finalist. And to me, I'm like, wow, like that's quite an achievement because back then I couldn't even get into a pageant program. And then I still don't know the first thing about pageants. And I walked on an international stage. I don't think I even watched the Miss Universe pageant like
I love
all the way through. But I probably should have done more prep anyway.
We love winging it.
That is my life philosophy, but all my best work seems to come from winging it, you know? But anyway, so I did Miss World. I went to Queensland, competed in the national competition. I didn't place, and I was like, you know what? I really feel like I should do Miss Universe. Give it another red hot crack. And then I did it, and I actually placed fifth place in 2020. I was very stoked, top 5, you know, from not even getting into the program. And then I thought...
2020, how old were you? 25?
I was 26 at the time. And I thought the next year I'll just give it another go because there's an age cutoff and that's 28. And I've always been a believer that you need to go full force in your 20s, try it all because you don't want to look back once you have kids or if that's what you want to do or settle down or settle into career. You don't want to have any regrets leaving your 20s. So I thought I'm going to do this every year. And if I win, I win. If I don't, I won't have any regrets. I would hate to, I don't know, get to 35 and look back on the year I was 28, knowing it was my last year. I didn't give it a go and I could have got the opportunity. Anyway, so I gave it another go and it was just so hard to do it 2 years in a row in lockdown. It's very draining because it's great fun. It's great personal development, great friendships and opportunities, but it is mentally draining. But having said that, I thought no matter how tired I am, I'm going to do it next year because it's my final year. But I didn't have to because I actually won. So I love telling this story because that's, I guess, a prime example of how you need perseverance on your way.
3 attempts.
3 attempts. If you count Miss World, that's 4 attempts at this thing. And you have to really love it and be passionate and know your why as well.
So what was your why?
My why was because since I was a child, I wanted to have a platform like that. Not only did I want to be, and because I felt drawn to it. I was called to do that. I always wanted to be an author. I always wanted to be a thought leader.
Oh my God, same. That was my dream as a kid. I wanted to be an author.
I know.
Oh my God.
We're the same person. The Svetlanas, I tell you.
Maybe I am Russian. Maybe I'm
going to leave you too.
Maybe it's because we have that very unique standpoint of being, you know, former Yugoslavian, Russian, Soviet Union, but also Australian as well. Like that. There's very so unique
diverse
recipe.
Pieces to it.
Yeah.
And I think I know for me growing up, the reason why I wanted to have a platform to storytell and say things was because as a child I was never allowed to. I had to sit down and be the good little girl, had to play everything by the book. So then I got to an age where I finally have the opportunity to speak. I'm like, good luck shutting me up now, like no chance. But now it's about having a responsibility with a platform where people do trust you to then be like, well, what do I want to say now? And when I say it, I mean it and I want to do more with it. So that's where I'm transitioning now. But I totally understand that whole element to it. It's an upbringing thing that those like Slavic kind of countries, it's literally ingrained, it's in your DNA. And the resilience, all those things, which I'm grateful for. Like you said, there are elements to it where I'm really grateful for.
Character building.
Absolutely. Like we literally can get shit done, get through anything. But there's also a downfall to that, to the point where for me, I emotionally can switch off like that.
Why are you laughing at him?
Like I can cut you and say goodbye really easy. I feel like
she gets it.
Not helping his anxiety. But it's not a good thing. Like that's what I'm saying. Like in some places it can, when I can actually draw a line, but then there are other elements where it's not healthy. And I've identified that now. So I'm growing up. I'm getting there. Anyway.
She gets it. But that inner savage, it's...
I love that. That's a good one.
It's Svetlana. It's not us.
Internal family systems, integrating all these different versions of you into one whole.
It's important to have self-respect and know when to walk away, but you also need to practice forgiveness, all those things. But I feel like we've gone off on a tangent again.
Tangents are good. We
tangents are great. But I think...
So challenges faced, Miss Universe, like doing it 3 times, not giving up.
Yeah.
How other people can possibly, take lessons from the fact that you did achieve this like huge goal.
Exactly.
But you failed a bunch of times.
I think I also wanted to show people that you can be a bit more introverted. People often think you have to be the loudest person in a room to stand out. I wanted to show them, hey, no, you don't. I could stand back in a corner, let other people have their time. And when I get called up, I will happily take up that spotlight and that limelight, and I'm not afraid of it. And a lot of time people are surprised by that. And I think that's a great way to be personally, because you could learn so much by just shutting up and listening to others. But then when you're...
Huge. That's a huge thing.
And when you're invited to speak, that's your time to actually contribute to the conversation. But my other reasoning was, being an immigrant as well, I'd look at the past winners. They were like 6 foot tall. They were beautiful, blonde, beach, Australian girls. And I thought, that could never be me. I'm too Russian. I don't speak like them. I'm not as...
How the fuck
bubbly.
are you?
Yeah. I'm not even going to attempt to do that.
Give us your best Aussie accent, go.
I can't. I'm going to butcher it. I'm not good under that pressure. Maybe off camera.
That's not fun.
But and I wanted to show other hopefuls and I don't like that word, hopefuls, but other girls like me who want to do something like this. You could come from any background. Doesn't matter about your height, or the introversion scale. Like, you can show up. And also, mental health was something I was really passionate about, but also disability. Being a former support worker, since I was a little girl, I actually could empathise a lot for people with disabilities. Being in Russia, there's not a lot of reform around that. So there was a man in my building who was in a wheelchair, and every day I would play outside and I'd see him looking out the window, and I thought, I wonder if he's happy. Maybe he was perfectly content, but to me it seems so unfair. I got to enjoy these things.
He couldn't get outside.
He couldn't get outside, and we didn't have the resources in Russia. We didn't have the support workers.
No one would help him.
The support workers would help him on a day-to-day physical functioning basis, but was that really fulfilling? I don't know. I was too young to really understand what was going on. But then when I was 19, I saw an ad on Gumtree for a support worker, and I got into the field, and I never looked back. And I knew that if I got this opportunity of being Miss Universe Australia, I would give back to the community somehow. So I actually wrote a letter to the CEO of Special Olympics Australia telling him the story from when I was 5 years old in Russia to when I moved to Australia, and I still had this burning desire to get into the support work field. He liked it, and he named me their first official Special Olympics Australia ambassador, actually.
I love that you took the initiative to go and do that.
You have to be a go-getter. People think once you get the title, like, that's it. You could just kick back, relax, and not do any work. It's actually a lot of work. You have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, that's when it...
Literally. So now, we just had our national games in Tasmania. They happen once every 4 years, and I'm actually going to Berlin with them in June for the international games, which is
so exciting.
So exciting, but it's so rewarding as well, So if I did anything with my platform, I could happily say it was this Special Olympics ambassadorship. I'm so happy. So, in a nutshell, that's why I wanted that platform, for all those reasons, to give people permission to show up as exactly who they are, be unapologetic about that, and also show them what's possible as well. Like you can.
Yeah, you don't have to fit a mold.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Just going back to before you, I don't know what you're going to ask, but yeah, I never know. How are you with rejection? Like, you know, you had 4 attempts essentially of doing that. Every kickback, what was that like? And what did you kind of do to not kind of fall off the rails or go, well, I can never do this? Because so many people would have given up, and it would have been really hard to come back from, you know, being told, well, essentially, like, you're not pretty enough or you're not beautiful enough to be in this pageant. Like, how do you deal with that, or getting told no even? Like, when you want something really badly and you get a no and you feel disheartened, what's the thought process that goes on around that?
I think rejection is just redirection.
Oh my God, I say that all the time! What the hell? Oh my God. Okay, great. Good answer. And you can now answer your question.
Just had a little thought, and it's kind of irrelevant to what you were saying, but not so much. So I think that society is like the evolution of a society is how they treat the old and the weak. And it probably shows a lot about like where Russia sits at the moment, or I don't know if it's better now, but the story's from, you know, the old man in Russia, right, when you were a kid.
It's definitely better now.
Yeah. So at the time versus Australia, like we have a huge support for like, you know, people with disabilities, the elderly, like there's all these different systems and supports in place that really help to lift these people up as much as, and yes, I'm sure there's issues, I'm sure there's things to work on, but fundamentally there's a lot of care and thought put into these. And yeah, I feel like the countries and the societies that focus on those things, like it's a real good marker of like how successful a society has become.
Exactly.
Because people who can achieve and do and lift everybody else up.
That's what blue zone countries and cities are. Have you heard of blue zones?
The ones where people live forever.
Yeah, because but they're like the happiest.
My people.
Yeah.
They're Inuits.
Yeah.
I've got Inuit heritage. There you
go.
Yeah. Blue zone.
So yeah, they
had to throw that in.
3% South Sudanese.
Fun fact. Is it a competition?
No.
No, but that's why that they look after the elderly. The elderly are a lot more. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It's a bit late now. The little snippets. It's just going to be a black ball.
You keep pushing me out. Anyway, yes, they incorporate the elderly in everything, and that's why a lot of these people, as well as like other factors like diet and whatnot, live to be over 100.
And I think like what you said is very true. It's not just about GDP. That's not a great measure of a country's success per se. It's how you treat your people, and it's not about discarding them, but integrating them into the community.
Yeah.
And the whole world is catching on, you know, there's reform everywhere. But Australia is definitely a leader of that, you know. With their size of the NDIS, they just injected so much more money into that, and that's billions, you know. It's the greatest nation building project that we've had to date. So, yeah, it's very exciting times. But to answer your question about rejection as well, I've got one more thing to add on that. I think when I was 19, I definitely took that rejection of not making it into Miss Universe Australia personally. I thought, I'm not pretty enough, it's because I look like this or I sound like this. I was too traumatized to pursue modelling. So I wasn't that great at rejection. But I think what I struggle with now is perfectionism, and that's that's fear of rejection from myself almost, like the self-sabotaging. I could reach out to the Special Olympics CEO, no problem. I don't care. I've had so many no's from reaching out to people. But I think what I'm afraid of is just putting myself out there when I'm not ready. It's not the actual rejection. It's putting myself out there feeling like I'm not gonna live up to my own expectations and disappoint myself.
I get that.
I feel like the key piece there is it's not the rejection itself, it's the attachment to the narrative or the story that you're playing out in your head of who you are if this is accepted. And you wanting that to the point where you can't fathom, you're already kind of trying to live it before it happens, and then in that process of it not working out, you've got this form of loss because you're like, oh, I could do this and I could do this, but it's like you never had that in the first place. Like, chill the fuck out. Roll with it. But another thing I wonder when you're saying like 19-year-old you know, said you're not pretty enough, blah, 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 blah. It's like How much of that was true? And then how much of that was glaring to the point where you're like, oh shit, this is what I need to work on? And where do you find that balance?
Well, it's probably just internalized feelings of being a misfit and moving to the country. It's not about, I guess, beauty or my looks or vanity or anything like that. It was about not looking a certain way. I think the way that I thought someone that represented Australia would look. So I think I just internalized those feelings a lot. So I don't know.
True.
Well,
in the long run, they weren't true.
Yeah, and also I guess times change as well, and our representation of diversity in media changes as well. I may not be ethnically diverse, but culturally, yeah. So I don't know. I'm very proud in that sense. If anything, I'm proud that I didn't give up. That's the thing that I'm most proud of. Yeah, so I can talk about that and not feel shy and, stand confidently in the fact that I didn't give up. That's probably, I guess, that tenacity and determination would be my best traits in that sense.
Yeah. Not a no, it's a not right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What wasn't a no, it was a not right now.
Yeah.
So how did Miss Universe, winning Miss Universe Australia change your life to the positive?
So many ways, I think. Someone said to me once, they compared it to like wearing an invisible crown almost, and I would have felt
Tiara.
that. And oh my gosh, we won't mention that. Should I mention it?
No, what? Go.
Okay. Well, there you have to because
okay, now I have to. We can't do this to the listeners, but Mon, you might like this.
Okay,
so I can't believe I'm admitting this, and I told. My heart is pounding just talking about it.
Oh my God,
why?
No, because it's so embarrassing. I already told Adam, but basically in 2020, I was trying to manifest becoming Miss Universe Australia. So what did I do? I was like, well, if I don't feel confident that the crown belongs on my head, then how can I actually step into that role? I have to feel like I deserve to wear this crown, and I have to get accustomed to that feeling, because
I don't think this is embarrassing at all.
It's,
I think this is awesome.
It's what they say about dressing for the job you want, not the job you have. So what did I do? I went on eBay. I typed in tiaras. I got a little plastic tiara.
I love that.
It's great. I love
and
it
I was
too.
like, I still have it somewhere to this day. No one knows this. Literally no one. So you heard it here first.
World first.
Call the press, but you're the OGs. I put it on my head to feel what it was like to wear it, and I would look at myself in the mirror and I would have to tell myself that I'm deserving of that.
Yeah.
And I would picture myself walking into a room and mentoring the girls, I actually had a dream. This is a crazy thing. In 2020, not the year I won, the year before that, I had a dream that we were in lockdown and then I was crowned as the winner. So it didn't happen that year, but it happened the next year in lockdown over Zoom. I had a dream about it.
I think it's the whole, you're speaking so much about manifesting. I talk about this all the time with people because people will see the things that I do and go, oh, you're just so lucky. These things just happen for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on. When people throw around that word manifesting, I literally had this conversation with someone the other day.
It's a buzzword.
I hate it. It's like such a buzzkill. It's a buzzkill now. But they're like, how do you just manifest this stuff into existence? I'm like, what does that word actually mean to you? And they were like, oh, it's just like having something you want and then you just essentially just get it. And I was like, this is where people go wrong, because manifesting is the initial thought or the idea. You can say you're going to manifest something. The next step is a step that people don't like doing, which is the action part.
Yeah.
It's the part where, okay, so you want that to the point where you're sitting there, you're feeling it, you've got the crown, you've got the dress, you've got, you can actually visualize yourself in these rooms and, on the stage or whatnot. But then the next natural step is to do the work. What are you doing every single day to try and etch forward to making that manifestation a reality? And then it gets to this point where the visualization has to get really strong. So your mind, your body, like every cell in your being has to basically tell your brain it's happening. Like it's just a matter of timing now. The last stage, I think, this is me fully making this up, by the way, because this is just how I see it in my head. But the last stage, stage 4, is flow. You get to this certain point where you're over the mountain, and now it's like, okay, now the universe just has to
do your work.
Yep, do the work for me.
It's in motion.
And it happens. I am sitting here right now doing the exact same thing you did, not with a tiara and dress or anything like that, not entering Miss Universe, but with a school.
What would we have to do to get you here?
I did Miss Croatia.
You'd be great. What?
For my soccer club in 2012. They have like a whole nationwide pageant, and I swore to myself after that, never again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, never
Is there a
again.
male version?
I'd love to see
Mr.
this.
Croatia wins.
Yeah.
Whoever the girl partners, he becomes Mr. Croatia. Anyway, but I'm doing that right now with the school.
Yeah.
I close my eyes, and there's 2 songs that I listen to every single time, and every single time I close my eyes, I am there in that village, and don't know why this is happening, but I can see the documentary that I'm going to create and the opening scene with the drone flying over the school that's been fully built now, right on the drop of this song. And I've said to everybody, this is going to be the song that I'm going to release in 2024 with a video of this exact scene happening in my head. It's like, it's too real for me to not happen.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk about what's happened in the last couple of days quickly?
What's happened in the last time?
With this whole school development and what your goals are? And
Oh, yeah, okay. Sure.
oh,
It's not really about me, but...
We want to hear it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how much you know about it, but basically when I went to Africa last year, I came across this woman in this village in Loiter Hills, and she had this incredible story where in Kenya there are 43 different tribes, and every tribe, so they practice Christianity as a religion, but every tribe basically has their own set of laws and culture. So much like Russian, Croatian culture, there are these things that aren't really rules, but people just follow them because it's tradition. That's it. So in the Masai Mara, the girls and the women are seen as inferior. So they are seen as next to nothing, to the point where they're traded by the time they're 9 years old for 3 cows. And in their culture, they're not allowed to remarry and they're not allowed to divorce. So basically when these girls are traded, they're also generally mutilated. And by the time they're 13, they're married off. And they're married off to men who could be 70. Helen was 13 years old when she was married off to a man who was 70. And these men also have multiple wives and multiple children. And so it's crazy because in their culture, women do everything. Women build the houses because it's taboo for a male to get on the roof.
Really?
So it's insane. It's actually insane because they cook, they clean, they give birth to the children, they look after the children, but they're denied all these things like education, getting any form of a skill set to try and be independent in any way.
Knowledge is empowering and it breaks that mold.
So anyway, she basically ran away when she was 13. A Catholic nun found her, gave her an education, and because she was given that opportunity, she felt it was now her duty to go back to the community and do the same for the girls, which is exactly what she's done. She's built a high school or a boarding school for young girls that she rescues to go to, where she gives them board, food, education. They all follow the Kenyan curriculum, so there's the process of if they want to go and study to be a doctor or a lawyer, if they want to be a tour guide, whatever they want to do, there is an actual career path for them to follow. She started a widow's village, so all the women that have been left on their own, that can't fend for themselves, she takes them and their children in, teaches them new skill sets, teaches them, she's got all these programs that she's set up as well. I mean, there's still 2 more things she's done. Like, this woman is incredible. She started an eco camp that's fully sustainable. So when tours come past or people want to stay over, there's a whole campsite that she's built from scratch. So they don't even cut down trees to build fences. Like, because she's like, you shouldn't have to do that. There are enough resources here to use where we don't need to be cutting down trees to build fences. So she's found this plant that's so strong that elephants can't get through.
What is it?
I don't know what it's called. Yeah, so the whole thing is like surrounded by this one specific plant that grows in, I think, the whole of Africa. I'm not too sure. But anyway, and then she's also started a nursery school because she identified the problem being it's all well and good to rescue these girls who are 13 or 14 and put them in school, but what actually has to change to break the cycle is educating the boys and getting them in school because they're not going to school. So they're just, again, in that whole cycle and tradition, and that's what's happening. The boys become men, the men follow through with the traditions, the girls are the ones that are left out alone, So
the important piece is like education can break
it is,
all chains.
absolutely. And so she builds this school with 4 classrooms, and her whole idea is that she wants to build it like the Maasai village so that when these kids come, they don't feel displaced. They don't feel like, I've been like taken from my, not taken from my family, but, you know, I'm now having to go to this place that's foreign. And so her dream is to complete the whole school and have 4 classrooms. So there's 8, which basically replicates the Maasai village. That's how they're all kind of like built out. So I heard this story and was like, well, shit. How do you just go back to life? Like, you can't. Like, I could not turn a blind eye. And again, like I was saying to you at the start, I just knew there was this knowing in me that was like, I can make this happen. No idea. I do not have $120,000 sitting in my bank account by any means, but I can make this happen. So I was like, all right, if I do this, I actually want to show people that social media, when it's used for good, and when a collective group of people come together, being strangers, being, you know, neighbors, whatever, we can actually create change. And it can impact not just a child, not just Helen, but this actually breaks cycles, and it also changes generational lineages. And that's the thing, that's the point I'm trying to drive, is like, we build this school, which we will. These boys and girls get to go to school. They get to grow up to, you know, follow their passions and do what they love. I'm about to cry. Like, it actually gets me really emotional. They get to go to school, and then they get to have kids, and they get to give these kids opportunities that they've been given. And that's how it like starts to break the cycle. And that's where I'm trying to get everybody excited to be like, you can be a part of that. You may never meet this child. No shit. If 30,000 people donated $1, I'd be done. Like, so donate $1. Like, donate.
Little plug.
You know, yeah. But it goes so much deeper, because I think, like you were touching on, or like we were touching on at the start of this podcast, you can do all these things and you can have these goals but are those things actually fulfilling? Like, for me, everything shifted when I came back home, because I thought, well, all I want to do now is be of service to others in a way that's going to give me something in return, without the expectation that it is going to, but that energy exchange of just doing something from the purest part of your heart to better somebody else's life. Like, that's everything for me. So now my whole thing is, well, how do I just keep doing that? And how do I keep growing that? And how do I get other people excited to be a part of something like that?
I love that. I feel like so often people are so fixated on the process. Well, I wouldn't even know how to start. I wouldn't know how to do that. But really, you have that goal in mind. And if you are passionate enough, you connect the dots as you go. You find a way, always.
I just want a quick note that I came across on a podcast on fulfillment. Do you know Tom Bailey?
Yeah.
I was listening to his podcast with the Diary of the CEO.
Yeah.
And I wrote a note about it, and he said fulfillment from an evolutionary standpoint, it's working hard to acquire skills that matter to you, that allow you to elevate yourself and others in the service of a goal that's both exciting and honourable. And I was like, fuck yeah, I love that. And then fulfillment allows you to then withstand those moments of unhappiness and those moments of challenge. So
the question I'm asking myself this year, the entire year, so every year I set my intention for the year is generally a question. So last year it was, all right, if you had a year to live, what would you do? Like, cool, you've identified that, now go and do it. What's stopping you from doing it? This year, my question to myself and to anyone who asks is, when all is said and done, will I have said more than I have done? That's it. Like, I can sit there and write all these bucket lists. I can sit there. No, when all is said and done, will I have said more than I have done? So
she wants to do the opposite.
I want to do the opposite. Yeah. And that is the thing that's going to guide me forever. So now that I've come out, again, timed it, announced, all right, guys, this is what we're doing in 2023. We're going to go and we're going to build this school together.
And you've also got halfway to your goal in a couple of days, right?
2 days, yeah.
Yeah, sick.
Wow.
All because and this is what's the cool thing about the internet, like, I connected with somebody at the start of last year who saw what I was doing and was like, dude, like, I love everything you're doing, everything you're putting out. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, we're going to do something really great together at some point. I was like, yeah, sick. When I come to Houston, we'll link up and we'll do something. And then today he surprised me with a $15,000 donation.
Wow.
Yep. It's done.
Do you know what's so funny? bit of a tangent once again, but I was speaking to someone in the industry back when I was a model, when I was on set for Target or something. But then one of the stylists, we were talking about networking, and I mentioned, you know, the power of networks. And she said that she doesn't like that word, like it's sort of like a dirty word.
Yeah, right.
And we talked about that, and I don't know, like to me, a network is something you build kind of effortlessly. It's just, network is connection. You just connect with the people that you meet. You form a connection.
We're all networks. Everything you
but
see
I think,
is a form of network.
yeah, but I think sometimes there's a negative connotation because people think there's some sinister purpose, some manipulative desire behind that.
So this is a really big, important point. Thank you for bringing that up. And I have made this very clear to everybody that's like been a part of this. I don't just want to be another white girl that comes into an African community, seriously, and try to be the savior. Because at the end of the day, I have nothing to do with anything, because Helen is the one that has driven this movement, who has changed an entire country's view on women. I just happen to come along and be like, hey, I just want to empower you. What does that mean? Okay, that means doing the marketing and stuff that you don't have access to try and raise these funds. I remember actually, it's very funny, when I was telling people about this before I even started any of it, he was an older man that just sat next to me at a cafe and we started having a chat. Anyway, and he kind of brought that up to me, which wasn't something that I was never even thinking about that being my role in any of this. And he kind of said it in a way where I kind of took a bit of offense to it, because I was like, hang on, you don't even know me, yet you're going to make this call. But he was like, oh, another person going and like saving a village. And I was like, ouch, first of all. But I was also like, hey, yeah, you've got to be careful with all your communications and the way you go out with stuff. You never should be the person in front of the camera. It should be, if this is actually her story, it has to be her story. And Ray, so the guy that donated the money, he said that to me. He goes, I've really loved and respected your video because you put her at the center of everything. Like, you weren't even in the video. It was just a voiceover here and there. And so I think 5 years ago, I would have really taken that comment to heart, to be like, how dare you judge me? You don't even know me. But then I was like, shit, you know what? This is going to actually be at the forefront of everything I do, because you're absolutely right. I don't want to play that character in this whole thing.
Things only hurt if they have some modicum of truth to them.
Yeah.
Like if some guy's like, you look like a potato, no, I don't know, you look like a watermelon. Or something like Rita's, I don't know, someone could be upset about being called a potato. But like, I don't know, you look like a, I don't know.
Everyone loves potatoes.
You look like a phone charger, like something completely ridiculous, right? You'd be like, what? You know, because it's irrelevant. Yeah. But if there's some relevance to it, or you believe inside that maybe it's true, or maybe in some like part of you that hasn't, that some insecure part of you, you're like, fuck, they're right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm so grateful for the rando who said that to me at a cafe, because
Randy the Rando.
I actually forgot his name. Anyway.
Gives you a chance.
I reflected. I really reflected.
That's the point.
And I look at timings as well, and I go, shit, had I gone out with this 3 months ago,
maybe it would have flopped.
It would have. And people would have been like, wow, look, you're just trying to be, you know, this, because it was me sitting in front of the camera being like, hi guys, me again, please donate. Yeah, you know?
Yeah. I think I struggle with that too with the Special Olympics. I thought, who am I, like, not having a disability myself, who am I to speak out about this? But then I realized the voice is not mine, it's still theirs. What I'm doing is using my platform I'm using my platform to elevate their voice further. You know, it's better than me not using my platform at all, you know. So,
and that is exactly what I've learned. And it always comes back down to integrity. Like, I have to check in with myself and be like, well, why are you doing this? Like, are you doing this to actually benefit these people, or are you doing this for clout on the internet for people to be like, oh my gosh, she's such a good person? And I know that I'm doing it for the right reasons, because every single time someone says, what you're doing is so amazing, I feel this like ick. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Like, appreciate it. But it's got nothing to do with me. I'm just like the key in the ignition that's like turning this thing to actually catapult it into a direction where it's going to actually benefit everybody that it touches.
Exactly.
You know what, as well, though? Like, as much as it sounds a bit rough, we all, as humans, act selfishly.
Yeah.
We all act selfishly. None of us are going to get out of bed without some selfish desire for an outcome. Luckily, you can also be selfish and do things that better the world. So it's okay. It's okay to be selfish, and you can also make positive change.
Yeah.
So you're, in some way you're acting selfishly because it makes you feel good to be able to help. But at the end of the day, you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I don't know if I believe that. My whole life I've heard that there's no such thing as a selfless act. I think of my friend Kristen. She told me the other day, she's like, every Friday I go volunteer at the soup kitchen. She just randomly told me that. She's been doing it for years. She'd never broadcast it or anything.
It makes her happy.
I know, and I knew you were going to say that, but it doesn't sit right with me because I'm not sure I believe that. I know the construct behind that thought.
I think you're just having a negative connotation to the word selfish, which is what I'm trying to break. It's not a bad thing to, it's just a reality of the world that you are doing something that you feel benefit from. If she didn't feel joy and contentment and happiness from doing that act, she would not do it. And that's just a reality.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying as well. Actually, now that you've explained, I get what you're both saying. This is really great. This is like a...
You don't always feel joy as well when you do these things. Sometimes it's self-sacrificial.
But maybe you feel joy in the sacrifice. I'm saying that you always get down to the core of you're motivated
it's
by
like
something.
a chicken and egg situation behind the motivation. I'd have to do. Let's agree to disagree. You're not kidding, but that's okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I actually, there's so many elements I agree with.
So, Mon, what do you think?
Well, there's really two sides to it, right? But I feel like that kind of takes away from what you're trying to do. Why are we, why is it up for discussion, the motivations behind it? Like one of you just said, if you're actually doing the act and helping the society, why not? Why does it actually matter? It matters
for you. It matters for you to understand what
that's
doing. No one else. Who gives a fuck what anyone else thinks? It just matters for you to see it, and then you can harness your motivation as best as possible.
I think for me, just to answer it, and we can end that before someone throws a punch. But I think
that's Svetlana.
Throw the punch. But which Svetlana, I'm not sure about it. No, but I think the difference for me is I really felt like before I wasn't doing anything to contribute to society, and people would always tell me yeah, but you help so many people with their mental health, and your videos help people, and I was like, yeah, but it's not enough. I should be doing more. So going on that trip, like I said, coming back, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't at least try to do something more. It's not even if I was to raise the 30,000 or the 120,000 to complete the school, if I didn't even try, that would have killed me.
Exactly.
Better to have,
what were you going to say?
Better to have tried and failed.
That's it.
I was just going to say, I really believe... What was that? Big one. I think that community-centered work is one of the foundations of happiness. So I recently got asked to do a local Melbourne TED Talk, and they asked me, which topic would you like to address? And I thought, what is meaningful to me? What has helped me in my life? And it is the principle that, when you do something for society, that actually really, imagine you didn't have audio the entire time. Adam just moved the mic closer. But without that, I think you could have all the money in the world, your own friendships, but without that, I was going to say selfless attribute, something that gives back to the community around you, building that community, I don't know if you could truly have that happiness. I feel like it's an essential pillar.
I'll go back to what I said before with the fulfillment from an evolutionary standpoint. Working hard to acquire skills that matter to you to allow you to elevate yourself and others in the service of a goal that's both exciting and honourable. I love it. I love it so much.
We had to hear it twice.
No. So honestly, I just want to drive the point home because we're kind of talking about the same thing again.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
Going back to, that was a very solid tangent and we're almost out of time. So I just want to, there's one thing I really want to ask you, and then we'll talk about just some general things and we'll call it a day. But what did Miss Universe change in your life for the negative?
Oh, okay. I think being recognised on the street, not that, I'm super famous or anything like that.
Is that Daria?
I think I really enjoyed my anonymity. Like I loved, like prior to being MUA, Miss Universe Australia, not makeup artist, which a lot of people think.
The first time you said that, I
I'm
was
also
like,
makeup
MUA.
artist, so I'll take the credit. No, I'm not. But prior to that, I loved being anonymous, being able to roll out of bed, go for a coffee. So I have a coffee shop downstairs. I literally roll out of bed sometimes. Sometimes I wear my pajamas and I throw a jacket on top and go get my coffee. The other day I went to do that and the barista was like, sorry, are you Miss Universe Australia 2021? Oh my gosh, we follow the pageant. Like everyone in this cafe actually knows. But I keep thinking every day of my life, I keep still thinking I'm anonymous to completely everyone. Yeah. And it kind of makes me a little bit paranoid sometimes, not knowing, you know, if I'm sitting down scoffing burgers and fries and like being super unattractive and like I'm being watched, or someone could take a sneak.
You have to be on all the time now?
No, I'm still very much me. I can't be on all the time. I'm just in my own bubble all the time. But like if someone could take like a sneaky snap of me, like that never occurred to me before. Yeah. Another day I was in an Uber with my friend and we were talking about something super personal to me, which we probably shouldn't have done in an Uber, but it's that anonymity thing that I fell back on. And when the Uber dropped me off, my friend was still on the ride and he turned to my friend and said, was that Miss Universe Australia 2021? Was that Daria? Oh my gosh, I wanted to ask for a photo, but I was too shy and I was gobsmacked because I was just unloading all of my personal trauma. And this is how rumours start and this is how the tabloids and the press get hold of these things.
Challenge that like
it's the Uber drivers.
They're all, they've got microphones.
It's always the Uber drivers. You know those Instagrams overheard in LA, and all
they're so funny.
All those stories. I'm going to end up on one of those. But I think that is a little bit challenging for me. And with my personal goals, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to doing a TV show, something like that. I have to get comfortable with the fact that, you know, as my platform grows, my face might be a little bit more recognizable. I may not have the anonymity. So how do I still maintain that sense of privacy and introversion?
It's hard. I think when you develop like a platform and some form of fame and stuff, like you do get benefits from it, but you don't belong to you anymore. You belong to the people, and it's really tough. Like there's pros and cons. Like there's no free lunch in any of this shit, is it?
You know what? I'm glad you said that because that is something that I'm struggling with at the moment. And like I've just said, the power of social media when it's used for good, it's great.
Croatia.
There are photos somewhere.
We have to see it.
Oh God. I think about it a lot. Like I would love to just disappear off social because I just don't. But then I think about all the things that I want to do, and I'm like, but there's this constant like dilemma. Like I know that it can be used for good, so how am I going to use it for good? But
the goal must be the purpose must be higher than.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But I feel that whole thing, and it's why. Even now, I think like, have I actually been the person that's holding myself back because I don't actually want people to know who I am? Like I actually enjoy being like just this little YouTuber or podcast or whatever.
That's why you want to be a director as well.
Yeah, I actually want to be behind the camera. Yeah. For some period there, I had to be in front to like gain, learn and get people.
Build confidence.
Yeah. And
it's really hard.
It is, and I'm glad that I did it because now you could put a camera in front of me and I'd be like, all right, what are we talking about? Like, let's go.
I've got so much more confident. Like I've realized whenever, like I'm a super confident person. You guys know me well. Like I'll talk to a brick wall and I'll talk back. Like it's ridiculous. But you put a camera in front of me and I'm like, I'm a mess. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? Why am I insecure? I couldn't look at the camera. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I did a photo shoot because I needed some like work shots and I could barely look at the camera. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? So I recently did a second one and it was like 3 years later, and they're completely different photos because internally I've begun to work on this ability to be in front of camera and just look at the camera and like be okay with that and not be afraid, not feel like the camera in front of me is just this world of judgment. And it's become really powerful because now it's fed back into my one-on-one conversations and like my eye contact's improved and my ability to like sit in silence is improved. So it's really good. Like I think a skill that everyone should be able to develop is get comfortable talking on a camera because it really brings out your insecurities.
You know, editing YouTube videos for an entire 2.5 years where it'd be me just sitting there talking to myself. I learned so much about myself. I learned about what my eyes do when I get nervous. But it literally was like psychoanalyzing myself, because I'd have to sit there for like 6 hours editing a video of just me talking. That now it got to this point where I'm like, I'm so fucking sick of myself. Like, I actually can't stand looking at myself, to this part where I was like, I really love these little quirks you got going on, Mom.
See, we never stop to analyze. We're rarely in a position to stop and analyze ourselves. There was this TikTok trend going around, which was really positive, and I really liked it a few months ago. And it was where you record yourself just like talking in a mirror or doing something, and it was like, look how beautiful you are, this is how other people perceive you. And I'm like, wow, like that's a really nice way of looking at yourself. And I wonder how people do perceive me, like these little quirks that people notice about you, you know, like it's nice.
I think you've got to be really, and I say this to all of my friends, and I'll always call people out on it. You got to be so careful with the words that you say to yourself. Because if you're mean to yourself, like, oh, you're an idiot, you're a piece of shit, oh, you always do this, like all that stuff. One, your brain manifests those outcomes in your head. Two, it subconsciously creates this permission in your head that it's okay for other people to talk to you like that. And that's, both of those things are fucked.
And let's go one step further, because we love analysing and psychoanalyzing everything.
We all love psychology here.
I'm on another episode of Psychology Today.
No, but look at the word spelling. Words cast spells.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I looked into like it's called gematria, like the geometry of words and numbers, it's very, very like, but it was really fascinating, because that's when I started paying attention to the words I was using and how I was speaking to myself, how I would speak to other people. When I get nervous, how my vocabulary changes. When I am overconfident, how it changes. And it literally is a word that when I'm trying to think, that's my void word. That's like the word I put in instead of albeit. God, if I start saying that. But it's so dangerous and dangerously powerful as well. Like, I think just knowing those little things, and even looking at the way words are spelled says a lot about the words. And it's the whole manifest thing.
I think also, to add a little bit of pseudoscience to that psychology take, I think it lowers your vibration so much to speak so unkindly to yourself that you actually end up attracting people of a similar vibe, people that don't wish you well, that don't want you to succeed, people that may even think these things of you. You know, if you think highly of yourself, you're naturally going to cut those people off and not want to associate. Yeah, exactly. I love that. We love a catchy quote.
Oh, really?
That one up on the wall next to the fish.
So, what's one piece of content, book, podcast, or anything that has had the most impactful impact on your life to date?
Okay, this is
one thing. Let's pick one.
Something came to mind straight away. Jumping the gun.
Sorry, I got excited.
So something for me, there's a book, it's The Alchemist, and it's so simple, but I don't know why. Like I read a lot, and I read a lot of books by different thought leaders, psychologists, people like that. But this book is so simple. Have you read it?
Yeah, great book.
It's set up like a fable, right?
Yeah.
And something about that speaks to my core, because it resonates with my inner child.
She is ticking every box for me right now. I really appreciate it.
So I'm just trying to impress you, you know.
You've done it. You nailed it. You win.
So I actually gave this book to my brother to read as well. I think, and I'll give it to my mum. I think it's so important. I think we need to speak to that inner child to reframe a lot of those, especially for us, you know, the things we struggled with and internalized, being from a very rigid culture with rigid beliefs and ideals. I really like that book, and that kind of made me, I already knew what was possible, but I drove that concept home and made me realize, wow, like it really is all possible. Manifestation, things like that, law of assumption as well, like just knowing your life will be great. It's our birthright to live a great life, to give back to the community, to live comfortably, and to give, to just surround ourselves with great people. So that's the book for me that, changed everything.
We've all read it, so...
Yeah, it's a simple read, you know,
simple.
It's a quick read as well. So
good start to like this whole journey for a lot of people.
Exactly.
I think going back to the manifesting thing, and I say this a lot, everything you see in the world was once an idea in someone's brain. Every single life-changing like groundbreaking thing was some little pop of whatever synapses like firing in a certain way, coming from a higher purpose, coming from who the fuck knows. But everything was an idea in a brain that was then turned into something through work.
And people collectively believe it.
Yeah.
My thing is always like, who came up with the name chair? Like, why is that called chair? Why isn't this called chair? And then you could go back, right, and be like, well, it's because it derives from this word to this word. Yeah, but who decided that?
I know, it makes my brain hurt.
Oh,
someone
language
just
is
went,
so
that's
funny.
a perfect word.
Yeah.
Car. What kind of
wasn't
word is
even.
that? Car.
It wasn't even, makes no sense.
And you could literally date it back to the Latin times and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, cool. But one person sat there and went, that's called a chair.
Yeah.
And everyone went, that's called a chair.
I mean, I reckon you can, with things like cars and like tech words, you could surely find a person that you could see where it originated from. That's in our time, you know.
It's all memes.
I'd love to interview
is.
them, get inside their head. Like, why did you decide to name it a car? Like, what was the thought process there?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I listened to this podcast on it's called the All In podcast. I listened to it heaps, and one of the guys on there, he was really early on Facebook and worked as one of the one of the directors for it or something along those lines. And he was talking about how him and his team coined the term data scientist, and how he was the first one to do it. And that the only reason why a data scientist that he gave someone the data scientist job was because some PhD wouldn't take a job that was like data analyst. He's like, I'm a scientist. And like, cool, we'll call you data scientist. And then from there, the whole thing.
So do you want to know why blue zones are called blue zones?
Why?
Because the people that were studying these cities only had a blue pen. And so when they were asked if you had a red pen, he's like, it'd be called red zones.
wow, red zone sounds negative.
Yeah.
Blue zone's great.
Yeah.
Blue's my favorite color.
But, you know, like if you had any other color pen, if you had a purple color pen by chance and was circling and writing everything like on the map, it would have been purple zones. So it's just collectively
Or
green.
when you hear about insects being named after the scientists that discovered them.
Yeah. And we're all like, yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on with that day.
Name it after me.
Imagine being a meteorite that like hits Earth. You'd be like named after that. You're like, fuck.
Let's not finish
Or
on
like
that negative note.
Or like a tornado that just destroys everything. You're like, tornado Janet. You're like,
Janet.
I really shouldn't have come up with that one.
Oh my God.
Okay, so moving forward. So tell us, what does a perfect day look like for you?
Oh, interesting. I used to get asked this at work, and for some reason I always struggled with this because what did you call it? Internal family systems, where there's different facets of my personality. They're all in flux and they're all in battle with each other. The part of me wants to wake up on a beach in Barbados or somewhere like that and work from my laptop, go for swims, drink fresh coconuts and dance in the evening. And a part of me could see me waking up, going to work at my not-for-profit, being a CEO, making an impact.
Let me rephrase it.
Let's rephrase the question.
What if you woke up tomorrow
Yeah.
and had the perfect day within reason of what you can actually achieve, what would it look like?
Okay, within my means, that makes sense. Well, I guess I'd have to think about what makes me the happiest. For me, spending time in Perth with my family, was so incredible.
When
So-
you're awake. When are you waking up? Like, what are you eating?
So,
He wants to know the nitty gritty.
oh, you want
specific.
the
Be
play-by-play.
specific. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I wake up, I'm at my
At
family.
what time?
Gosh, if I'm being ideal, I guess 6 in the morning.
Oh God, my day's over by 6.
I'm halfway
done
through my
everything.
sleep. I'm
It's
still-
lunchtime.
Oh my gosh. So I wake up at 6. I'm in my family home back in Perth. I have a coffee. Then I might have another coffee.
Then another coffee, and then I have anxiety.
Coffee doesn't impact me that much. But I'll go for a long walk. I like to do 10,000 steps. I'll do it by the beach, actually. So I'll get my brother in the car. He's on school holidays. Or he's just wagging school because I'm a cool sister. No. Just stay in school, don't wag school. So then I drive to the beach with him. We have our music in our ears. We're just playing our own music. We do our 10,000 steps. We go for a little dip in the ocean, a little swim. Then we go to the local cafe, have a juice, sit, chat about life. then I might go home, read a book, listen to some podcasts, do
What's
a little
the
bit.
weather on the day as well?
Well, it's Perth, it's summer, so probably like 32 degrees, which is like
Not for me, but yeah, that's
Perth
fine.
weather is the best. No, Perth weather is the best. Not a cloud in the sky, blue skies. There'll be a bike ride somewhere in there. I love riding my bike. I feel the most ecstatic when I'm riding my bike or going quad biking, jet skiing, things like that.
Have you meditated? Have you journaled? Have you done
That's
any of those
coming.
sort of
That's coming. I
How
actually
did I finish a
things?
day?
Sorry, just get excited.
we were talking with Mon before, and I mentioned this to you, Adam, the chronotypes. I'm a dolphin, so a lot of the motivation that I feel happens in the afternoon, like around 3 p.m. That's when I feel really activated with my energy. I want to get my work done, but I'm not working on this day because it's my perfect day. But if you do what you love, it's not work anyway. But so I actually prefer to work out and do things like meditations and things like that in the afternoon. So I will do that. I do a lot of stuff like that. But I feel like, I don't know, in the evening I might go for dinner with friends, try something new, have a great chat. For me, I'm happiest when I'm around my people, my select community.
People in nature.
Yeah, people and nature, I think, make me happiest. The things that are, just very different to my public persona or my professional life. Going to events, things like that. I love it. It's lovely, but I love to bring it back to basics.
The simple things, like the simple
It
joys
is the
of
simple
life
things,
that
yeah.
will always, I mean, we've
Exactly.
spoken about this before, like baseline. If you can always just come back to that baseline and whatever those things are that ground you, the stresses of your work or your, life outside of what keeps you happy in those moments, it's just easy to come back to.
Things that you can do, those things that you can do without external people impacting them.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
really is key for the strong family.
And that's the best feeling for me when I'm listening to music. I'm on my daily mental health walks. Like, I just feel incredible. I have my best ideas. I feel clear.
Comes from the silence and space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So, and what do you want to be known for from here? Everything's done.
I think if someone described me, I'd love to be described as a philanthropist and an activist and an entrepreneur. Those sound lovely. Those sound great. I just want to be known as someone who is kind, genuine, warm, and really passionate about what she does, and very ballsy too, not afraid to go after what she wants and gives others permission to do so as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, I think you're doing that already, so
Thank
you're on the
you.
right path.
And final question. What is the why of all of this? What is the meaning of life to you?
Oh my God, you can't just spring that on me. Do you ask all your guests this?
No.
I don't remember this
I'm
in
reading
other
these questions
episodes.
and I'm like, dude, these are like a really hard questions.
I'm getting better at this.
You're making me sweat. Better,
That's the point.
or are you just
No.
being mean?
No.
Bonus
better.
round.
Better, yeah.
Okay, what is the meaning of life?
To you.
To me, the meaning of life is connecting with others and, I was going to say, selfless acts, giving back to the community and creating that positive ripple effect, the butterfly effect that will impact the entire state of the world for years to come, hopefully in a positive manner. So doing as much, being as kind to yourself as possible, but also to others too, leading by example, that's a good life to me.
All right, cool. I think we can end it on that. Thank you so much for coming in, Daria.
Thanks, guys.
So lovely meeting you, and I'm so excited to see what you do next because I
Likewise.
think, you're going to do
Mom.
really incredible things.
Thank you.
Until next time.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.